Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm Taylor Sims, the Graduate Student Public Engagement and Professionalization Coordinator. And I am just doing a series of conversations with alumni. And with us today is Jaymin. So if you want to take a minute just to introduce yourself by saying when you were at Michigan, when you finished your PhD, and what you're up to these days.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me, Taylor. I started at Michigan 2008, and then I had to take a break in between, to do my military service in Korea, and came back in 2015. Graduated in 18, and ever since then I've been teaching. I've been at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I'm an assistant professor of history.
Great, thank you. So if you can think back to really early on when you were applying to PhD programs, it probably seems like a lifetime ago now.
Yeah.
But what motivated you to start a history PhD? And then thinking about that and the course of the program, did your motivations change over time, kind of as you went through the program? Or anything you kind of recall about why you wanted to do a history PhD?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And, I definitely have thought about it a lot. I think it's more of a trend these days, but, I came to PhD program straight out of college. So I was 22 and, in a sense, I really didn't know what to expect at all. I was just thinking, I love history. I love reading and writing. And it's just going to be six more years of college, which definitely it is not. So, over time, it's more of me learning about what doing a PhD means, what academia means, than my expectations changing. So, the first 3 years with coursework and prelims, you just learn, basically everything that I'm interested in, someone has written about it before, and you need to realize that before you can get started. And then, there is the field work, and I was, in a sense, fortunate that I was able to do my military service by teaching. So, I really got some first-hand experience in teaching, basically survey courses. So I realized, that's part of the job that we don't really learn about at all in grad school. And then, afterwards, dissertating, that's when you really begin to think about the path in more professional terms, right? So how do I fit in? What are the jobs that are available? And, what do I need to do with my dissertation and everything else? So it was just for me, a big learning process that really changed every year. For example, first year, I remember thinking basically, not having done grad school, just sitting in the, do we still call it 615, the method course?
Yeah, it has changed. Its substance has changed, but I'm pretty sure it's still called 615.
Right. So yeah, it was still 615 in 08. And I just remember thinking, sitting there feeling really stupid. And my goal at the time was just to say one intelligent sentence a day, a week, So it just really started from that and so on.
I can totally empathize with that. I remember I would write down what I wanted to say and then kind of edit it and make sure it sounded smart. And then I feel like hopefully eventually in certain contexts you get over that, but you never really get over it.
No.
Yeah, what was the dissertation process like for you?
It was really brutal. I mean, it is for most people, but for me, having taken a break was really not great because I left Ann Arbor in 11 to do field work, and then I was doing some of that, and then I went back to Korea for my military, which I did from 12 to 15. So when I came back, it's just new group of people, and I don't know what it is like now, but when you come back from field work, you at least when I was there, I really felt I was just outside social circles, and I mean I really could have made more effort to socialize and stuff, but I'm really more of an introvert, so I wasn't great. So there was that. And, dissertation process in general is just like brutal because, like you feel like, I think most importantly, there's no distinction between work and life. And you feel like you should be working like 24/7, which is just like not great. And there's like no guarantee that any of this will lead to anything professionally. So, yeah, I mean, 3 years that wasn't really like great, and whenever I was meeting up with people and socializing, it was always in the back of our minds, right? So it was never truly enjoyable in a sense.
I, again, totally understand that.
Yeah,
In the middle of the dissertation right now, and I feel like it's
yeah.
always sitting on my shoulder. Um, so, kind of the next question relates to this, but is there anything looking back you kind of wish you had known or wish you had
Mhm.
learned in grad school? So
Yeah.
that's kind of the broad question. And then
Mhm.
anything in terms of professionalization or
Right.
career development, like as you went out on the job
Yeah.
market or as you're navigating your role now,
Mhm.
kind of things you wish you had encountered or learned in
Right.
your program here.
Yeah, I think I can think of like, one very general but fundamental thing and two more specific items. General thing is like something that I'm like trying to learn right now. Right now, I'm doing this like boot camp sort of thing at the National Center for Faculty Diversity and Development, or Faculty Development and Diversity, NCFDD. But so yeah, one big thing that like they really emphasize is like how to manage your time, how to track your time, and like try to get this like work-life balance that's tenable in the long term. And that really was something that like was not taught in grad school, and I think it was actually the attitude was like the exact opposite. You should be working all the time. So I really wish I had learned how to approach research and writing as work instead of just like something that blends into the general schedule. So that is something that I really would have liked to learn, but I do realize that actually most faculty members don't know that either. So like maybe that's something that everyone can learn. Like maybe there can be some sort of like program and sponsorship and so on. So yeah, that's like one very fundamental thing that I wish I had learned. I think that would have made life a lot better in a sense. I mean, it would have helped with like like imposter syndrome and just like burning out and so on, because now you're just like separating it as like your work, not your life. Um, to be more specific, so like I'm like in academia still, so I'm thinking of two specific things that I wish I had learned. First is like writing syllabus, writing and pitching syllabus, I guess. Like writing lectures, that's something that's just everyone has to just like do themselves. Everyone has different style, but I feel that designing a course is something that could have really like helped me, especially in the first 2 years. A lot of faculty members in their first 2 years, like they end up spending so much time just like spending all their time into designing these courses and writing lectures and so on, when in fact that's like really not encouraged at all, and it really is not your job description. Whatever kind of job you have, you should not be spending 100% of your time to teaching. So that's first specific thing that I wish I had learned. The second thing is writing grants, basically. So being at a place like Michigan has like its advantages in terms of like funding. Like there's a lot of internal grants that are available. Most of my research was funded through the through Rackham or International Institute. So like I actually never really got to experience more competitive grant application process. And I mentioned this because I feel like skills that go into grant writing is there's something that can be applied to like many different fields too, like trying to see what the requirements are, trying to construct your own narrative, and and so on. Yeah, so I wish that I think that could really be a class, really, like writing a grant sort of thing, which can be applied to like stuff like like public scholarship, and other like means of professional development too.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I think that having some sort of like repertoire of syllabi and classes that
Yeah.
even if you adapt them wherever you're going, or never use them. The process of putting together a syllabus is really hard. I mean, it was just the 195 and I did it last year and I was like, man, this is really hard and like very intellectually challenging. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, at like the most fundamental level, like we don't even know like how many hours the students were supposed to be spending, relative to the graded hours. So yeah.
Are you teaching right now?
Yeah, I'm teaching 3 courses, 2 survey courses. Well, 2 sections of the same survey course and one more major history course.
Great. What is the major history course?
So like a history of China's foreign relations, which is like something that's like very much related to my research. So yeah, for our full level courses, I really like to just like translate my research interest into teaching, so that I'm learning something, but also like I mean, like from undergrad perspective, it probably doesn't make that much difference, but at least for the instructor, I feel like it really gives you confidence to teach on something that you really, really know and you're doing research on. So, yeah.
Definitely. Have you found teaching that class kind of turns back and affects how you research and write, or have you not really had much time to do your own research and writing right now?
That's a really great question. So it's like a little bit of both. I don't like, my current job is like, 3-3 teaching load. And with the pandemic, you might spend more time with course prep and so on than usual. So I don't really have too much time on research and writing. So teaching this course really like actually does force me to do research, because, like I assign books and articles that I've either read but like don't have good notes on, or could always go back to, or like books and articles that I should have read but haven't done. So I mean, every week I'm going to be forced to do it just like a little bit before the students have done it, right? So it is a good way to like force me to read, which I mean, a lot of things I hear from like especially early career scholars is that like you just don't have time to read, so you really have to find a way to just like fit it in there.
It's probably nice in a way too to learn along with them. If they're like engaged and interested, I could see that being like a good intellectual community, especially when community is so hard to come by right now.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. Also, especially because I mean, even though it's like a history course, like I get like students. Half of my students are not history majors, so they're going to look at different things, focus on different things, and I mean, I always encourage them to speak up like as like experts in their own field, like whatever it's like international relations, even like psychology and so on. So I do definitely learn a lot from them. It's very interdisciplinary in that sense.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Great. So the next question, some alumni have this more in their work than others. But how do you see the role of public engagement in what you're doing right now, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't do anything like specifically really, but so I'm at an institution. It's a Catholic school. Used to be liberal arts, but kind of like more of a like a regional school now, I guess. But still, the student body tends to be like not that diverse. Most students are from either like the Twin Cities metro or like at least Minnesota. So I mean, I think my role with public engagement is at the very basic level. Most students that I take my survey East Asian history course, like they don't know anything about East Asia. So like like I just like try to work with that situation. I try to remember that they're probably never going to take another class on East Asia. So like I should just like try to make the material seem relevant to them by like connecting like broad global historical themes with like local experiences if possible, and so on. So for example, like when we are talking about say like Indochina wars, there is like a pretty big Hmong community here in St. Paul and Minneapolis. So like I encourage them to like go to this like oral history like library talking about immigrant experiences, and like just use them in like just like write about that and so on. So I mainly see my role as just like introducing like the region to these students so that they can just like have a better understanding. And I did do this lecture series. We have this like Center for Lifelong Learning, which is mainly for like like retired senior citizens in the area, and it was just like 6 lectures on modern East Asia, and like like they're really interested, and that's something that I don't know, like I really never thought that it would be interesting to talk in front of an audience that doesn't really know much about the topic, because at places like Michigan you're always going to be speaking in front of experts, but I do realize now that a lot of people are going to be in this position, and that's to me public engagement.
That series sounds really cool. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like, or how you translated your research or your work or whatever you talked about for an audience of interested non-experts?
You mean for like in general, or?
Yeah, the speaker series you mentioned, the Lifelong Learning Center. And it sounds like you said people were really interested, but it wasn't a group of experts. So how did you translate your research to an audience like that?
Oh, it wasn't really like on my research. I basically used like same materials from my like courses. So I was basically like kind of treating them as like undergrads, because they are in a sense in like the survey course. But I did try to. Well, this lecture series was a little bit different. Class size here at St. Thomas is pretty small, so it's always going to be more interactive. But the lecture series was like something more close to like lectures at Michigan. Like there was a huge like audience. It was like a huge like auditorium, and like you just like are in front of like a huge screen, and you're just like speaking and so on. So like I guess I did try to make it more like anecdotal, make it more engaging, because like they had this like pretty strict policy on like just having the Q&A at the end, instead of like just like it being spread out throughout the and so on. But yeah, so there was that, and I did find the Q&A sessions to be like really fascinating, because like a lot of people in the audience like have like they're coming from like they remember say like World War II, that sort of stuff. So that's like really fascinating, and they have some personal anecdotes about how like they had like this had this like exchange student when they were like little in northern Minnesota, and it's like just like fascinating stuff, very local history stuff. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. Hopefully you get a chance to do something like that again. It sounds really cool. Mm-hmm. So the next question, it's kind of been interwoven in our conversation so far, especially discussions of work-life balance. Mm-hmm. But how has the pandemic, the COVID-19 situation impacted your work, and how are you doing? How are you adapting?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a big impact. I think I'll just talk about two things. Like, well, mainly, I want to talk about like the positives a little, because like most of these stories you get are going to be the negatives, which is definitely true. So in terms of research, it meant that my research is on early modern Chinese borderlands with Korea, Vietnam, and Uzbekistan. I focus on like refugees and criminals. So I had been planning to go to Hanoi last summer to do some field work, like look at some documents. That was obviously canceled. And then I've been having really not great time with research, but I have to say that I am still affiliated with Michigan. I am a center associate with the Center for Chinese Studies there. So I do have like access through the library, and the library has been really great about like scanning things. The 7-Fast service. So I was fortunate that I had pretty good like notes from this like collection, 283 volume collection of archival materials, and I have like 250 like PDFs from that volume, which has really helped my research. In terms of teaching, it's like a mixed bag. So I teach one like hybrid course that's basically like an in-person course, and two online courses for my surveys. And in a sense, I actually have to say I like teaching online. I like being in. So this is where I usually teach. Like I record lectures online, and my Zoom meetings are always just like discussions. So like I really do enjoy being able to do that at home, especially given the winter in Minnesota. And I do find that, especially with small group discussions, I mean, my classes are capped at 20. So it really helps to be able to see everyone's face on the screen. So I really did find that as helpful. On the other hand, obviously, like you don't really meet them for real. So that's, like a downside. But I think we, did enjoy we have been enjoying like one another's company, because like it's at least a set time where you get to talk to other people.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that you like teaching online,
Yeah.
because a lot of the shift online is complicated.
Mhm.
And, some people love it, hate it, love some of it, hate some of it. But it's good to hear that you're having a good experience with it.
Yeah.
So finally, it's
Mhm.
kind of this broad umbrella of, is there anything else, as alumni, any insights or just experiences broadly that you would want to pass along to current graduate students who are in the thick of the program at varying stages right now?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like what I would tell myself like 10 years ago. I mean, like I came in and like I had this thought until like the very end of the program that Ann Arbor was just like a place I was going to pass through. University of Michigan was just a stage, and I think that really like prevented me from like like connecting with people and the community, which I wish I had thought of Ann Arbor as a home, which I didn't. And like I don't know, like I just like always had this like sense of like not belonging in a way, which obviously has other factors too. So yeah, just and definitely yeah, branch out of the branch out of grad school. It's great to be able to like commiserate together, but I feel like it's very nice to have people outside that very small bubble, which I wish I had done more of too. So yeah.
I think that is very good advice. So is there anything else before we close that you would want to kind of tack on to the end?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, great. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and sharing your time. I know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with me. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, you too, Taylor.